Think on.
Welcome back from the commercial break. We are continuing with our wonderful discussion. And all those who are in the weekend, you better begin to invest in sports. Don't do it as a luxury. And in addition, there are many advantages. We'll be coming back to the Honorable later that we harvest from investing in sports, not only for earning a living, but even I know at a wider perspective of improvement of our health.
Yeah.
There is that part which will ensure that we talk about, and I will contribute where it will be necessary. But it's a pleasure once again to have you, in our second session. Those who've joined us, we are together with Honorable Doi Bernard Onen Mutusa. Very innovative man. The time I've just sat with him, I'm liking him so much. And also with Dr. Ponshan Kavera.
Yeah.
Our viewers have been asking, where did you go? You went to develop maybe new curriculum, and as you know your work, and so I said, please keep on. You'll be coming, and it's good that you are back here. And there is a question before you for our discussion. It's a pleasure to come straight away, and we shall add on.
Thank
you
you
have your 10 minutes as we discuss.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph, once again for hosting me here to have something to say as regards to this very wonderful topic, sports and prioritization of sports and education towards our economic upturn. I'm also honored to be here with my friend. He's my very good friend, Honorable Odoi, though I try to call him and he picks, but he's always in the field, which is good. Which is good, because at the end of the day, some people are very biased with leaders, with our politicians. Some of the politicians we've got, they come and sit in Kampala. But when I call you and you tell me, I'm in the field, I'll get back to you. Yeah. It communicates a lot to me as a youth. I'm not away from the...
No, you're in the bracket.
Yeah, I'm within the bracket of the...
And the business is in the field.
Of the youth, and I'm really honored, and also have sent my greetings to our viewers. And by the way, Frank Gashumba, is a very good follower of this show, and I was having a chat with him. I said, tell Dr. Joseph to invite me one day, and I share my knowledge to
Are you
the entire
Monday? Let him be here Monday.
Sure. So I also send greetings to him. He follows us very well, and he loves the fact that we talk about the economy, we talk about career guidance, we talk about capacitating our youthful populace on how to own our economy in the near future. So I'm honored to be here.
It's a pleasure. You take us on with your package. I know you have a lot you've been saying.
Yeah.
You need to develop the careers of people.
Yeah, so Honorable Doi pointed out that he's seated with doctors.
Yes.
And I loved the way, you see, being a doctor is not having that paper from Makerere, from Harvard, from wherever you are, but the ability to articulate issues in the way they are supposed to be articulated, in articulating things in the easiest way possible that even an ordinary citizen can be able to understand them. I love the way you define sports. Define the sports from an academic standpoint. You brought it home for an ordinary person to understand it. And I'm also happy to be with you on this panel, given the fact that you come from an area, or you are leading an area in Uganda that is known to be a nursery bed of sports people.
True.
You cannot rule out, when you're talking about football, the history of football in Uganda, you cannot rule out people of Ginger.
Yeah, sure.
Ginger has been a nursery bed of football talents in this country. We have the likes of Wagaluka. There were so many football players that used to come from Ginger. Magumba. All those guys. Isabirie, Masaba. I don't know even where Masaba is. Those guys changed the sports terrain of Uganda. Let us. Of course, there were the times before we were born, the times of the late Obua, even Obua, the son, and Eric Obua. All those guys come from the area, which I think it is also either close to the area you did, or even that's where you represent. And I was talking to my, I'm getting married soon. I'm sorry to communicate it here.
Oh, you are very
Yeah,
right. You are
so
inviting us.
It's a good thing.
yeah, I was communicating to my fiancée, and I'm going for a show, and I was trying to tap into some of her knowledge on how she sees having been born and raised in England and all that. And she told me, look, we have England has 176 billion years. England as a country.
And the population of 7 million, all the 4 countries combined.
Yes. She told me that England,
7 million.
Yes, England has 176 billion years. But of the 176 billion years, half of those billion years, if not almost 70% of those billion years are sports billionaires.
70%?
Yes, 70%. Are not even business people, but they are billionaires. But then
dollars.
Yes, $billion.
Yeah.
And then I was asking her, how have you managed to do that? How has the British government managed to harness those potentials, to ascertain that kind of economic stability and economic growth? Because she was telling me that those billionaires we are talking about, they are employing millions and millions of British citizens in their companies, in their organizations. Some of them are having close to... Now, you find someone who has a PhD in dietetics. Those people that check food, which kind of food you are eating. Someone is a PhD holder from Oxford in that kind of discipline, but is being employed by a football player.
Because they are big guys.
Because they are big guys. They have to understand what kind of food this person is supposed to eat to keep in shape, to be able to play football to the best of his abilities, to be able to play football to the best of her abilities. And she told me that you wake up in the morning and you find a father or a mother driving his son or her daughter or his daughter to the playground to play football. They are able to identify these children's talents at a tender age. Do we have such a thing here? For us, we believe that studying to become a doctor is the cornerstone of success.
You are the head of the department. You are the ones who tell us these things.
I am the head of the department. I'm the one that is always communicating that thing, that we've got to educate our children. Yes, of course, education is very important. We cannot live in a society that lack educated people. But what is education? We've got to redefine what education is in totality. Identifying your children, identifying people's competences at a tender age is very, very important if we are to ascertain this kind of social dimension that can be able to augment our economic fortune. When you look at sports people, if Uganda today woke up and it is, we are buying David Beckham, to come, let's assume, okay, let's talk about players that are still in the field playing football. If Uganda is to buy maybe SC Villa or Kampala Capital City Authority, the team, they have KCCA,
the club, yeah.
The club, if they are to buy, let's say, Cristiano Ronaldo, and they're going to pay him 300,000 pounds a week.
Per week.
Now, just know that the mere fact that he is not actually Ugandan, the work permit and the revenue that that person is going to pay per week, I think in 4 years, the revenue can feed the economy of our country. Right? So the country benefits if we are...
Yeah, because if you look at 300,000 pounds for a week.
For a week.
Per week, 3,000 per week.
Yes, a week.
Per week.
In a month, you're talking of 1.2 billion.
1.2 billion. And that's what those people are earning.
Bruise people's mind really.
Exactly. But now the point here is, when I was in Kisubi, we used to have a gentleman called Masengere. That was the time when we were all following.
You guys are known for rugby.
Yes, well, exactly. That was the time when we are all supporting Arsenal, Frank Lampard, Thierry Henry, and Masengere made a statement that I will never forget. He said, by the way, we are more skilled than those people. We are very skilled, very much so skilled than those people, but we lack the support and the facilities to develop our skills. Look at people, at the age of 2, 3, this child has a football ground in the compound. He has a supportive father. He drives him or her to the playground to play football. These people try to manage both sports, career, skill, and education. And along the way in life, they are able to specialize. That I think I can be a good footballer.
Sure.
Let me take up a career in football. They join academies. How many academies do we have in this country? I want to debunk the narrative that the government is not supporting sports. I want to debunk that narrative. Of course, I'm not so much directly involved in decision making at a high policy making level, but I have seen and I have heard and I have read billions and billions of money being injected in FUFA. Is it FUFA?
Yeah, for football.
For football, Uganda. Where does that money go? Why can't we build academies?
How many? Do you have any academics so far?
I don't even know whether we have any academy. And we have young
We have, but not to the standard.
Not to
not to the standard. These are personal initiatives, like you earlier on said. A few smart guys who are seeing an opportunity and they are seeing huge talent, they are seeing no direction. So you come up, you wake up one day, register your company, identify talents, train them, look for business in Europe or Asia, and then make quick money.
Because even when you look at some of the African football players that have made it in Europe, if we are to take that example, those born and raised in Africa, they are coming from countries that remained with strong ties with their colonial masters. For example, France. You know, countries that were colonized by French, they had this thing called assimilation policy. So in as much as these countries got their autonomy, but they are still directly connected to the likes of Didier Drogba. It was easy for him to cross over to France to follow up with his uncle. You know, it is easier for a Senegalese to wake up and go to France than a Ugandan boy to wake up and go to Britain.
That's true.
Right? It is so easy. That's why you find...
It's actually easier to go to France than Britain.
Exactly. The British, they did whatever they did and closed their boundaries. Right? So, what can we do as Ugandans to make sure that we develop further the skills that we have? We have very many skilled young people, but their skills are languishing in books, which is actually not their main interest. Right? For example, in Ichisubi we had what they call sports time. We had music time. And that's why the likes of this magistrate now, or is a judge, Silver Chagulanyi, the musician, that is where he built his music career from. But they would give you almost 30 minutes only to be in the music room, to play the piano. 30 minutes. The rest of the time is chapel, prayers, and reading. They even tell you, you fail, you quit. But I'm failing academically. Am I failing in football?
They're preparing to go to heaven.
Developed economies, those ones that we keep praising and singing do not have such kind of curriculums. Do not have such kind of arrangements in their education system.
I'm coming to you, Doctor. It's a date, but which can be paid. For us, when you talk about policy makers, you are part of the chain as you belong to the class of the elites.
True.
And you do come with proposals that can be either shared directly to those policy makers and which can, change the discourse of the policy debate.
Doctor,
I'm not saying it to pin you that you've not done it, but I'm trying to inspire ourselves. Me and you, I'm not parting from you. And we look at what's supposed to be done. There is a question I have on that very subject matter. And which is a gap, because before we go to the recommendation and in the in-depth of this matter, we again blame how things are being done by us here. education institution, the Ministry of Education and Sports. Now, of course, because of the nature of our education, the system, it accommodates privatization, the private education, and which goes to like how we have Victoria University and the public institutions. But as you said, the government has not given the prioritized, sports. I come back to even how we come up with these issues of curriculum, new curriculum. Remember, we are dealing in part of a topic career development, and which has an attachment of how the curriculum of education and the state of the courses which are being delivered. You go to university, Victoria University, you go to Mubus, Makerere University, which courses are there? And you find that all around 60 universities, which either could begin with part of whether it's a diploma or a certificate in sports, industry or entertainment, it is not at all being given space. And as I am now connecting with my dear colleague, the policymaker, if that is a recommendation made mandatorily that all institutions of higher learning, starting with even the primary and the secondary education, sports is our priority. The language we have is sports, is entertainment, is arts. We'll have courses to that effect. So that then those whose talents are identified, then are developed, then are ushered into what now the government comes in to invest, that is called the academia, sports academias. That seems to be a gap. And back to you, I don't know whether there is deliberate move or any linkage to this, to the bridging of this gap in career development, in designing of courses, or whether there's any plan, not only your university but other universities. What do you say about that?
You see, the things to do with policies, they are quite unique. A policy is not designed from out of the blue. It is a process. It involves consultations. It involves deeper negotiation from a decentralized perspective. Going deeper in the village, in the communities, in households. Establish these gaps. After establishing these gaps, you come up here, you begin sitting in different caucuses as policymakers, because Honorable Odoi Bernard Mutusa is not the ultimate policymaker. That is where we go wrong. And eventually, that's where we make policies and they are rejected by the entire populace because we've not consulted them. He's a policymaker. My grandmother in Chigogolo Busuju is equally a policymaker.
True.
He's a policymaker. So if you understand how policies are arrived at, you'd understand that it is not about SEC members sitting and deciding for a 45 million whatever people populace. It is not about Poncha and Kabera and a cocoon of intellectuals, doctors to go and sit in the Ministry of Education. We are fed on some Renzoli water and very good meals to decide on behalf of millions of Ugandans or the entire populace. What do you have? For example, Honorable Odoi, in 2020 or 19, around there, I saw on NBS that the eastern part of Uganda has the highest rate of student dropout.
True.
I saw it.
True.
In papers. What have we done to follow up on those developments? I can give you an example of what is taking place in China to address such kind of dropout. Because if you drop out, there are so many underlying factors that influence this dropping out. It could be school fees, tuition. It could be sickness. It could be failing to identify yourself. Right? In China, they have SCDC. They are called school dropout centers and vocational institutes. School dropout centers, they are in each and every province. They are held by a person, they are managed by a person appointed by the government at the central government level, because for them they have governments. They have CCP, China Communist Party, but they also have provincial government. Someone is appointed as the director of this SCDC in each and every province to help out that Dr. Odoi
Amen.
dropped out of school in senior 2. But does that mean that Dr. Doi cannot make it in life? What can we do to help Dr. Doi? Maybe Dr. Doi is a good basketball player.
True.
How many basketball players are having PhDs and bachelor's degree?
Should we needed actually?
Is it even needed in that area? So what can we do? We have this traditional conservative construct of dropouts. Or you're joining a group. They have those kind of... He got pregnant. So what is the relationship between pregnancy and dropping out?
And your future.
Does that mean if someone gets pregnant, he should drop out of school? What is the government doing to address such kind of issues, to help those people take part in the wider participation in education? I want to get to the gist of this matter. When we are talking about policies, the Honorable Doi talked about it very well. We've got to have clusters. We've got to have the line of work, right? We should have Honorable Doi. When these people get into office, sometimes they are lost. They are nowhere to be seen. I'm not pinning you, my brother.
But I own it even in my submission.
Exactly. But at the same time, you don't blame them. They are leading millions and millions of people in the constituencies where they come from. So attending to each. But if we are leaders, I'm teaching education administration, right? And I was telling them about leaders. How can a leader lead a populace, right? Building structures in communities. We are able to unearth the skills of the many people out there. When I would by the time you get out of office as a member of parliament, you'll have millions and millions of people's lives that you've improved. True. People's lives that you have changed in just a wink of an eye by having well-organized community and local structures, both in sports and both in education. We should have these school dropout centers to follow.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You wanted to conclude something?
I wanted to conclude something.
Yeah.
So by having these kind of structures, we are able to reach out to all types of people.
Thank you.
In their problems, with their problems, and in their communities, and be able to help them. When I was working on my research, my PhD model, it was household education awareness. How can we trickle down education to communities and households? If Kavera dropped out in 1998, as it was going to happen, if I didn't get someone to really come up and help me, where would I be today? Someone would find me there and say, Kagaya ko mwengi gwakolachi gwamukuba, because he has found me living a miserable life. And yet I was a very good boy in class, and I had a future. I could be a doctor, I could be a teacher, I could be a lawyer, I could be anything. But because we don't have structures that go deep in communities and households, many of our talents, many of our skills are languishing in absolute misery.
Actually, language in graves later.
Wow, I'm very much humbled with this great inspiration on record. I believe no one should ever, delete, especially for us on YouTube, Smart 24 TV, and also live streaming is on. I hope very soon we'll be just, sharing it. And what has been submitted is quite, great ideas, but we don't want great ideas stop just in this talk show. Policymakers outside there, as we come to you, also be us being part of you as media, we hope substantive, acknowledgement and notices will be made on these highlights. Honorable MP, as we go for the commercial break, I will not invite you, we'll just say it in the second session. I was very much moved by the identification of the gap of what is that China do we cannot do. Creating centers, school dropout centers for the dropout.
It's an amazing
and this is a direct idea. Yeah. And we know when we collect them, when we gather them, what are we going to do with them? And we have already identified the potential areas.
True.
So we'll continue with that, but I think from here you will have a serious motion to present before Parliament.
That's true.
And it should make a change of the discussion that is ongoing.
That's true.
Thank you. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. Don't miss this talk show. It inspires you. You can never become nothing unless if yourself decide to be nothing. You are so important and valuable. Our young generation, it's not time to despair. It's time to rise up and stand strong to look at how you can develop your career and be important to your next generation. Thank you.